Beyond the Moon. Chapter 1. A Ship Awakens. The first morning aboard Genesis arrives without a sunrise. Instead, the lights inside your cabin slowly brighten over the course of several minutes, gently guiding your body toward a new day. There's no sudden alarm, no sharp change in the room around you. One moment you are resting in the quiet darkness, and the next, soft white light has settled across the walls. For a little while, you remain where you are, not because you are reluctant to begin the day, but because you find yourself listening. The ship has its own voice. Fresh air drifts almost silently through the ventilation system above you. Somewhere beyond the cabin wall, water continues its endless journey through pipes hidden beneath the decks. Farther away, machinery hums with a steady confidence, carrying on with work that never truly stops. None of those sounds demand your attention. Together, they become something reassuring, the sound of a ship that is exactly as it should be. You sit up and place your feet on the floor. The gentle weight beneath them still feels slightly unusual, although far less than it did yesterday. Your body is already beginning to accept that this is normal now. Genesis creates its gravity in a way that would have seemed extraordinary only a few generations ago. The habitation ring surrounding the ship turns slowly, almost imperceptibly, providing a gentle pull toward the floor. There are no engines creating gravity, and no mysterious technology hidden behind the walls. Just motion. Simple, reliable, and designed to continue for years. You dress and secure your cabin before stepping into the corridor. The passageway is quiet. Most of the crew are only beginning their day, while others have already been awake for hours. A ship like Genesis never sleeps all at once. Watches change, responsibilities shift, and somewhere aboard, someone is always working. You begin walking toward the central hub. The corridor curves so gradually that it barely catches your attention, yet the shape of the floor is a constant reminder that you are walking inside a slowly rotating wheel, suspended in space. Every few meters, another doorway passes by. Crew cabins, medical, exercise rooms, small gathering spaces where conversations will unfold over countless meals in the years ahead. Nothing aboard Genesis feels extravagant. Everything has been built with care, but never excess. Every kilogram launched from Earth had to justify its place. As you continue along the corridor, you notice a change in the air. It becomes a little warmer, a little more humid. Then comes a scent that instantly feels familiar. Growing plants. You slow your pace as the hydroponics bay comes into view. Beyond a wide observation window, rows of vegetables and herbs stretch beneath bright artificial sunlight. Leaves sway ever so slightly as air circulates through the growing room. Fine droplets of water glisten along narrow channels before disappearing beneath the roots. It is strangely calming, perhaps because green is a color your eyes have missed more than you realized. These gardens will feed the crew throughout the voyage, but standing here, that almost feels secondary. What matters is that life has traveled with you, not preserved in containers, not stored away for some distant future. Growing, quietly, patiently, exactly as it has done on Earth for millions of years. You remain there for another moment before continuing toward the transfer hub. Ahead, the curved floor gradually becomes level. The walls seem to straighten. The handrails become more frequent. Almost without thinking, you reach for one. With your next step, the gentle pull beneath your feet begins to fade. Another step, and your shoes lose contact with the deck. Weightlessness returns so naturally that there is no sensation of falling, only the quiet realization that gravity has stayed behind inside the rotating ring. You guide yourself forward with an easy push against the rail. Ahead stretches the ship's central spine, running the length of Genesis toward the bridge at the bow. Somewhere beyond it, hidden beyond layers of hull and shielding, the moon continues its endless journey around the Earth. Genesis is drawing closer, not with urgency, not with drama, only with the quiet certainty of a ship that has finally begun the voyage it was built to make. Chapter 2. Along the central spine, weightlessness has a way of changing even the simplest movement. A gentle push against the handrail is enough to carry you several meters forward before you need to reach for the next one. There's no hurry. The ship has been designed with this rhythm in mind, placing rails and handholds wherever they are needed, allowing the crew to move through the central spine with surprisingly little effort. Behind you, the rotating habitation ring continues its slow, silent revolution. Ahead, the spine remains perfectly still. The transition between the two is always subtle, yet every time you cross it, you are reminded that Genesis is really two ships working together. One is built for living, the other is built for flying. The passage widens as you drift farther forward. Bundles of cables disappear behind neatly fastened panels. Pipes carrying water, coolant, and air follow the length of the ship, each marked with colored bands that make them easy to identify during maintenance. There is very little decoration here. Everything has been arranged for reliability, inspection, and repair. A crew member approaches from the opposite direction. With one hand resting lightly on the rail, they guide themselves past with an easy nod before continuing aft toward the habitation ring. There is no awkwardness in their movement. After months of training, weightlessness has become as natural to them as walking once was. You continue onward. Every few moments, a hatch opens into another compartment. Communications, navigation equipment, storage, small workshops where replacement parts can be manufactured if something unexpectedly fails during the years ahead. On Earth, a broken component might be replaced with a phone call and a delivery truck. Out here, every solution must already be aboard. The farther Genesis travels, the more self-reliant she must become. You pause beside one of the observation ports, built into the spine. The window is not large. It doesn't need to be. Beyond it lies a darkness so complete that it almost refuses to be understood. Against that darkness, countless stars remain perfectly still. Without an atmosphere to soften their light, they appear sharp enough to touch. There is no sensation of speed, no rushing wind, no passing clouds. Only the quiet certainty that every second, the distance between Genesis and Earth grows a little greater. You gently pull yourself away from the window. The bridge is only a short distance ahead now. Its pressure door stands open, allowing the soft glow of displays to spill into the corridor. As you enter, conversation is almost non-existent. The morning watch is already settled into its routine. One officer quietly reviews navigation data, while another monitors the health of the ship's systems. Across the room, someone compares the latest communications from Earth with the previous day's transmission. Nothing feels dramatic. It doesn't need to. This is exactly what everyone trained for. The forward observation windows stretch across the front of the bridge. Slowly, almost patiently, the moon hangs beyond the glass, much larger now than it appeared from Earth. Its familiar gray surface is illuminated by brilliant sunlight, while long shadows reach across ancient craters that have remained unchanged for billions of years. No one aboard the bridge seems eager to interrupt the silence. There is very little to say. For every person aboard Genesis, this is the last close pass they will ever make. You find yourself standing beside the window for a while, not searching for anything in particular, simply watching. The moon continues its endless journey around the Earth. Genesis continues hers into the darkness beyond. For a brief moment, the two paths quietly cross. Chapter 3. The Last Close. Look. For a long time, no one speaks. There's nothing unusual about the view ahead. The moon has looked much the same for billions of years. Gray, silent, covered in countless scars left by a history far older than humanity itself. Yet from here, it feels different. Not because it has changed, but because you have. From the surface of Earth, the moon has always been a companion, sometimes bright enough to cast shadows across the ground, sometimes hidden for days behind clouds. Children learn to recognize it before they know the names of the planets. It has watched over every civilization, every voyage across the oceans, every city ever built. It has always been there, close enough to imagine visiting, far enough to remain mysterious. Now that familiar companion hangs beyond the forward windows, closer than you have ever seen it before. Individual craters stand out in remarkable detail. Long mountain ranges stretch across its surface like frozen waves. Bright rays of ancient impacts spread across the landscape, untouched by wind or rain for countless ages. Nothing moves. Nothing ever has. Without air or flowing water, the moon keeps its history written across its face. It occurs to you that every person aboard Genesis has looked at this same world from Earth. Some would have seen it from crowded cities, others from quiet country roads, some perhaps while camping beneath clear summer skies, others through the windows of apartments, high above the streets below. Different places, different lives, the same moon. That shared memory quietly connects everyone aboard this ship. Long before they became astronauts, engineers, doctors, botanists, or pilots, they were simply people looking up at the night sky. The bridge remains calm. Navigation requires only small adjustments now. The ship's computers continuously compare thousands of measurements every second, ensuring Genesis remains exactly where she needs to be. The crew watches, confirms, verifies. Mostly, they observe. There is a confidence in that routine that only comes from years of preparation. You drift a little closer to the forward glass. Earth comes into view beyond the moon, smaller than it seemed yesterday. Still brilliant, still unmistakably alive. Bands of white cloud curl across deep blue oceans, while the sunlight catches the edge of the atmosphere, forming a thin line of pale blue light that seems impossibly delicate from this distance. For a moment, the moon slides slowly across part of Earth's face. The two worlds appear almost close enough to touch. Of course, they are not. Nearly 400,000 kilometers still separate them. Space has a way of making enormous distances appear deceptively small. You wonder how many people on Earth are looking upward at this very moment. Most have no idea where Genesis is. life continues. Children leave for school. Commuters wait for trains. Morning traffic fills familiar roads. Somewhere, someone pauses for a cup of coffee before beginning another ordinary day. The ship carries all of those lives with it, not physically, but in memory. Every person aboard represents millions who remained behind. Genesis was never built to leave Earth forever. She was built to carry Earth with her. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the moon begins to drift behind the ship. No announcement marks the moment. No ceremony. No countdown. The distance simply grows, one quiet second after another. You continue watching until the familiar gray world becomes just another destination left behind. Ahead, only darkness remains. Not empty darkness. Possibility. The voyage has truly begun. Chapter 4. Beyond Familiar Skies. The moon grows smaller with every passing hour. No one aboard Genesis needs to be told that. There are no announcements from the bridge, and no ceremony marking the moment. The navigation displays quietly update the increasing distance, while outside the forward windows, the familiar gray world slowly surrenders its place to the darkness beyond. It is difficult to notice the change from 1 minute to the next. Only after standing there for a while do you realize that the moon no longer fills the view as it did before. It is becoming another destination left behind. You leave the bridge and gently guide yourself back into the central spine. Without gravity beneath your feet, movement becomes almost effortless. A light push from one handrail carries you silently toward the next. The only sounds are the quiet hum of ventilation fans and the occasional click of a hatch opening somewhere farther along the ship. The rhythm is already becoming familiar. There is comfort in routines that repeat themselves. Breakfast follows the morning watch. Equipment inspections follow breakfast. Exercise, maintenance, research, navigation, communications. Each day has its own quiet structure, carefully planned long before Genesis ever left Earth. Years from now, that routine will become the calendar by which everyone aboard measures time. You pass another crew member floating in the opposite direction. This time, instead of simply nodding, they pause beside one of the observation ports. Without speaking, both of you look outside. The stars remain perfectly still. On Earth, they seem to rise and set each night, carried across the sky by the turning planet. Out here they do neither. They simply exist, fixed against the darkness with a clarity that no atmosphere could ever allow. For a few moments, neither of you says anything. There is very little that words could improve. Eventually, they offer a quiet smile before pushing gently away toward the engineering section. You continue aft. Passing through the transfer hub, the familiar pull of artificial gravity gradually returns. Your shoes settle against the floor once more. It always feels slightly strange after drifting weightlessly, as though the ship itself has reached up to catch you. The aroma of breakfast begins to drift through the corridor. Fresh bread, coffee, something warm prepared in the galley. The smells seem almost impossible this far from Earth. Yet perhaps that is exactly why they matter. They remind everyone aboard that survival alone is not enough. A voyage measured in years needs ordinary moments, meals shared together, conversations without urgency, small routines that quietly preserve a sense of home. You pause outside one of the forward observation windows in the habitation ring. Earth is still there, beautiful, bright, undeniably alive. But now, with the moon falling farther behind, Something has changed. For the first time since departure, Earth no longer feels close. The distance is still small by the standards of the journey ahead. Yet the voyage has crossed an invisible line. Returning is no longer a simple thought. Ahead lies Mars. Beyond Mars, the outer planets. Beyond them, the long voyage between the stars. Genesis continues forward without hesitation. Steady, patient, certain, exactly as she was designed to do. Chapter 5. Home Between Worlds. The morning gradually settles into its familiar rhythm. By now, every member of the crew has found their place within the quiet routine that keeps Genesis moving forward. Conversations drift through the corridors as people pass one another on their way to laboratories, workshops, and observation stations. Some carry tablets filled with the day's tasks. Others simply carry a cup of coffee and the comfort of another ordinary morning. You make your way toward the mess hall. Large windows line one side of the room, allowing the darkness of space to accompany every meal. There is something strangely peaceful about eating while the stars remain suspended beyond the glass, unchanged by sunrise or sunset. Breakfast is simple. Fresh bread baked aboard the ship, eggs prepared in several different ways, fruit harvested only yesterday from the hydroponics gardens. Nothing feels extravagant. Every meal has been planned with care, balancing nutrition, efficiency, and the simple comfort of familiar food. It is remarkable how quickly ordinary routines regain their importance. Sharing a table, passing someone the coffee, laughing quietly at a story that has already been told more than once. These moments require no mission objectives. They remind everyone that Genesis is not only carrying a crew, she is carrying a small community. After breakfast, you wander through the habitation ring without any particular destination in mind. The ship encourages movement. Long voyages demand healthy bodies as much as healthy minds. And throughout the ring, you pass crew members beginning their daily exercise. Some walk along the gently curving corridors. Others spend time in the fitness area, maintaining muscles that will still be needed years from now when Genesis finally reaches her destination. The designers understood that a journey through deep space would test more than engineering. It would test patience, routine, resilience. The ship itself quietly supports all three. You eventually find yourself returning to the hydroponics bay. The gardens look different now. Artificial sunlight has shifted toward the brighter tones of midday, while gentle fans carry warm air between the growing beds. Tomatoes hang from carefully supported vines. Lettuce, herbs, peppers, and small fruiting plants fill neat rows beneath the lights. One of the botanists moves carefully between the plants, checking moisture levels and trimming leaves that have reached the end of their cycle. Nothing is wasted. Plant material that cannot be eaten will eventually return to the ship's recycling systems, becoming part of the next harvest. Life aboard Genesis is built on quiet cycles. Water returns, air returns, nutrients return, again and again. Watching the gardens, you begin to understand that survival here is not achieved through abundance. It comes from balance. Eventually, you continue your walk. Somewhere ahead, laughter echoes briefly through the corridor before fading into the gentle sounds of ventilation and distant machinery. For a moment, it is easy to forget that you are millions of kilograms away from the nearest city. Genesis has begun creating something unexpected. Not another Earth, something smaller, something quieter, a place where ordinary life continues even while the stars slowly change outside. You pause beside a window overlooking the endless darkness. The earth is still visible now, smaller than before. Tomorrow, smaller still. The voyage has found its rhythm, and so, quietly, have you. Chapter 6. Evening aboard Genesis. The day passes quietly, not because nothing happens, but because everything happens exactly as it should. Hours slip by almost unnoticed aboard Genesis. Maintenance inspections are completed. Scientific observations are recorded. Navigation remains steady. Messages from Earth continue their long journey across the growing distance between home and the ship. Life settles into a rhythm, measured not by clocks alone, but by routines repeated with quiet confidence. As the ship's evening approaches, the lighting throughout the habitation ring begins to soften. Bright white illumination gradually gives way to warmer tones, carefully timed to help the crew maintain a healthy daily cycle. Without a rising or setting sun beyond the hull, Genesis creates her own day and night. The change is almost impossible to notice while it is happening. Only after several minutes do you realize the corridors have become noticeably calmer. People speak a little more quietly. Doors open and close less frequently. The pace of the ship begins to slow. You find yourself returning to one of the observation lounges. The room is simple. Comfortable chairs face a broad, reinforced window looking out into the darkness ahead. A few shelves hold well-read books that have already begun circulating among the crew. Someone has left a mug on a nearby table beside a small notebook filled with sketches of the moon made earlier that day. No one seems concerned about moving it. There is time for everything aboard Genesis. You settle into one of the chairs. Beyond the window, the stars remain as steady as ever. Without the familiar movement of the night sky above Earth, they almost seem painted onto the darkness. Only the navigation display quietly reminds you that the ship is moving at extraordinary speed. The universe offers very little sensation of motion. Distance changes, not the view. For several peaceful minutes, nothing interrupts the silence. It becomes surprisingly easy to understand why observation lounges were included in the design from the very beginning. The crew would need places where there was nothing to repair, nothing to monitor, nothing to accomplish, only space to think. Eventually, another crew member enters carrying 2 cups of tea. Without saying very much, they place one beside you before taking the chair across the room. The silence that follows feels entirely natural. Some conversations do not need words. Both of you simply watch the stars together. The lights inside the lounge continue to dim almost imperceptibly, reducing the reflections on the glass until the window seems to disappear altogether. For a moment, it feels less like looking through a window and more like sitting quietly among the stars themselves. The thought lingers long after it arrives. Humanity has spent thousands of years looking upward at the night sky. Tonight, for the first time, home is looking back. Neither view is large enough to notice the other, yet the connection remains, invisible, unbroken. Eventually, you finish your tea and make your way back toward your cabin. The corridors are quieter now. Most of the crew have already settled into their evening routines. Tomorrow will bring another ordinary day aboard Genesis, Another day carrying humanity farther than it has ever traveled before. You pause outside your cabin door before taking one last look down the gently curving corridor. Yesterday, this ship felt unfamiliar. Today, it feels like home. Chapter 7. The First Night Beyond the Moon. Night returns to Genesis without darkness. Outside the ship, space has remained black since the moment the journey began. Inside, the lighting slowly dims once again, gently preparing the crew for another period of rest. The transition is so gradual that most people hardly notice it. By now, the routines of the ship have begun to settle comfortably into place. The final maintenance reports are completed. Laboratories fall quiet. The fitness area empties. Conversations fade as one crew member after another makes their way back toward the habitation ring. You follow the same familiar corridors that greeted you this morning. The gentle curve beneath your feet no longer feels unusual. It simply feels normal. That realization arrives almost by surprise. Only yesterday, every doorway invited curiosity. Every system seemed worthy of careful observation. Today, you walk through the ship without thinking about how it works. You simply trust it. Perhaps that is the greatest compliment anyone can offer a machine. When it performs its task so well that it quietly disappears into the background of everyday life. Before returning to your cabin, you pause one last time beside a small observation window. The moon is no longer visible. Earth has become a brilliant point of blue-white light, still unmistakable, yet already beginning to surrender itself to distance. Somewhere on that distant world, evening is arriving for millions of people. Families gather for dinner. Children finish their homework. Friends meet for conversations that seem completely ordinary. Very few of them are thinking about Genesis tonight. And that is exactly as it should be. The purpose of exploration has never been to leave humanity behind. It has always been to carry humanity forward. You remain by the window for another quiet moment, not searching for familiar landmarks, not trying to measure the growing distance, simply appreciating the remarkable privilege of witnessing the journey as it unfolds. Every generation has looked toward the horizon and wondered what waited beyond it. For centuries, oceans answered that question, then the skies. Now, the stars. You quietly make your way back to your cabin. The door closes softly behind you. The room feels different now, smaller perhaps, yet somehow more familiar. A place that belongs to the rhythm of your day. You settle into your sleeping berth as the lights gradually continue their slow descent toward night. Beyond the hull, the fusion drive maintains its steady burn. Air continues flowing through the ventilation system. Water continues its endless journey through the ship. The habitation ring continues its patient rotation. Every system works together without interruption, carrying Genesis farther from Earth with each passing second. There is comfort in that quiet certainty. Tomorrow will bring another ordinary day aboard humanity's first interstellar ship. New routines, new discoveries, another small step across a journey that will take many years to complete. For now, there is nothing left to do but rest. Genesis knows where she is going, and through the silence of deep space, she continues onward, one quiet second at a time.